Hey guys, this is Carla, and this time I'm here to do a review of the third movie in the Divergent series. This movie is titled the Divergent series Allegiant. And if you know me in any way, you might know that I was not actually enthused about this movie at all. In fact, I didn't really want to go watch it at all, so you might expect that I was not happy about it. I didn't want to go. It's just my cousins and my brother wanted to go see it because for some unexplainable reason they liked the previous movie. But if you know me at all, you know that I did not like the previous movie. In fact, I thought it was an abomination. I think I gave it like a 1.5 stars. In my review for it at the Geeky Pub, which you can search for, it's going to be there. Still, I thought that movie was pointless, stupid, and so bad that it almost made me angry. Like, I was angry when I was watching that movie. So I did not want to go see Allegiant, but my cousins convinced me, so I'm like, okay, I will go, if only just to hang out with you guys. Turns out, now I'm not going to say that Allegiant was better necessarily, but it was definitely a lot less offensive to my intelligence than Insurgent was. Like, the plot of Insurgent just boggled my mind. This one, I feel, was okay. I mean, it was watchable, let's put it this way. It's definitely not a good movie, but it was watchable. It didn't make me angry. I did roll my eyes at a lot of stuff, and there was a lot of things that I didn't like about it. But it was watchable. A lot less, a lot less riddled with huge, humongous plot holes, I think, or at least the obvious ones, like, with Insurgent, in which the whole plot basically revolved around a plot hole. And you could definitely feel, because in case you don't know, the last book in the series, in the Divergent series, the last book is titled Allegiant, and the studio actually decided to split that book into 2 movies for reasons that I am not entirely sure yet. I mean, other than money, I guess. I had no idea how they were going to do that, because the book is not that big, and it doesn't feel like it has a clear stopping point halfway through or anything. So I was very surprised when they announced that, and I felt it made no sense. But this movie, because they split the book into 2 parts, it's for like the first 3/4 of the movie, you can feel, and it's not one of those things where you're like, oh, the pacing is off, maybe that's why it feels slow. No, you can feel in practically every scene that they're stretching things out on purpose. It's like they add in a lot of scenes that don't have anything to do with this. There's a lot of people like walking around, a lot of people like going up in elevators, a lot of slow-mo that didn't need to be there at all. They kind of take any excuse to just add a little bit of action when there's really no like giant action pieces in this movie or anything. It's like a little bit. Let's just make it so it seems a little bit like an action movie. And they just stretch things out a lot, and you can feel it. So that I didn't like, because then movies are supposed to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And even Insurgent sort of had that. This felt like it wasn't a movie. It felt like it was part of a movie. And I didn't like it, because you split it into 2, and then you had to fill in the space that you had left. You had to pad it up, and they did that by making people talk slow and, adding to the dialogue where they shouldn't have added anything. So you could feel it. I was sitting there and I was thinking, this scene went on far too long, much longer than it had to, and it happened a lot. Another thing that I didn't like about this movie is that the CGI, I mean, obviously they were pushing really hard to make this one the most sci-fi out of the whole, the last, all the movies that we've had so far for this series. They really pushed the sci-fi thing, and the special effects just didn't come with it. I mean, some things look cool, I admit. I liked the drones, thought it was a cool idea. And some of the outside shots, like, when the spaceships are coming in and out of places, those look cool. But then you get the simple stuff, like a shot of them against this, like, red wasteland of a world that you can see in the trailer, of just people standing there. And I remember my cousin said this about, like, 3 times. He's like, man, their green screen work is terrible. Because it was awful. You could see them standing out from the background so much. And, I don't know. It was weird. I mean, some of even the more technological stuff, like I said, like the flying crafts and everything, they looked okay, but they looked very, like, standing out from the background. Like, you could tell it was CGI. I mean, and not just because, we have no flying aircraft right now, but you could tell because it stood out. It looked like something made in a computer. So I don't know if that was the rush, because they made this movie in such a rush, or what was it? But I felt they could have done a lot better with the CGI. Then again, I also felt this way in Insurgent, so maybe they're just going for that weird feel where your CGI is, like, really conspicuous, but personally, I don't like that. I think it should have looked more even with the rest of things, and especially something as simple as a green screen. That was kind of silly. It's just, you're just tinting the sky, basically, because everything had to be, like, have to have, like, that reddish hue. You're basically just tinting the sky, and it looks terrible. So, I don't know. Some things in the plot, I mean, even though I thought it was less offensive than Insurgent was, there were still some things in the plot that you're like, that's very convenient, isn't it? I'm looking at you, Triss, learning how to fly, an aircraft in, like, 2 minutes without any prior experience. That was something. It just, a lot of things like that where you're like, that's just not, it just seemed very convenient a lot of the times, in that sort of stuff. And there was this kind of undercurrent of it where I was sitting there thinking, oh my god, you're so stupid, why can you not see that they're playing you? But it felt less ubiquitous than it did in Insurgent, because I could, up to a point, see them as just being so hopeful it made them naive, rather than them just being stupid, so I think I didn't mind it as much because of that, but it was there. I mean, people just being stupid and not believing each other. Of course, it was also there in the book, so maybe I shouldn't complain. It might just be that I did like the Allegiant book better than the Insurgent book, and that I realize I'm, like, the only person in the entire universe who can say this, but I did like Allegiant, the book, better than the previous one. So I think that might color things a bit, but I did think that this movie was not as terrible as the previous one. It was okay. It was watchable, and I don't feel angry at it. I just feel like, it's a movie. By the time stuff actually started happening, which, by the way, I have to say, I didn't remember a lot of what happened in the book because I read it such a long time ago and I only read it once. But after I came home from the theater, I actually went to the wiki and looked at the plot, and I do think the major plot points are there. They just rearranged stuff around in order to be able to split it into two. So, I don't know, I'm looking forward to seeing that because they've taken out a lot of the layers that the book had, I'm guessing just to save money because they needed a lot of actors for that. But a lot of actors just aren't in here. Some of them get killed really early on. Some of them are just glorified extras, even though they've been like announced with big casting announcements and everything. So it did feel very kind of straightforward, not as layered as the book was. And because you have less people, there's a few storylines that just get cut. But mostly I felt it was just rearranging stuff around, because now we know, for example, who the bad guy is in here, which in the book we didn't know until much later. And it feels like we got to spend a lot more time at the bureau in the book than we did in this movie, for example. So I think things got rearranged, but it did feel like it was a bit more faithful than Insurgent, where they just made up completely ridiculous plots of their own just to get to the end. So I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed it. I don't particularly think any of the cast stand out. I do think that the only person in this freaking movies who is having a decent time with his character is Miles Teller, because I mean, I think that's just him, really, but I think Peter makes me laugh. Okay, he makes me laugh, so I enjoy having him there, and he probably doesn't even like being in these movies, I'm sure. But I like having him there because for once I get to feel like there's somebody here who's having fun with his lines. You know, the rest of them are so just so blah. You know, even Shailene didn't really do much of anything. I felt I liked her a lot in the first one. In the next two, it's just like, well, she's just there. And she's supposed to be like the chosen one, but she's just there. Naomi Watts, it still boggles my mind why they thought she might make a good Evelyn. Like, I don't think she even bothers, honestly. This is just a paycheck for her, I think. And my brother turns to me like halfway through the movie, and he's like, how old is she? And I'm like, she doesn't look old enough to be Forrest's mother, does she? And that's the feeling, you still just get that same feeling. Octavia Spencer, I don't even know why she bothers with this. I mean, she's great in everything she does, but this character that they gave her, the way it was written, is just not good. Jeff Daniels, I enjoyed. Just because I think David is an interesting character. At the same time, we didn't learn enough about him to actually see some layers to him like we did in the book. So I'm hoping that we get to see a little bit more of that in the second half, in the next half of the last movie. But he was okay. I enjoyed him. And I could see him as the character too. For me, really, the standout, I think it has always been 4. Because I think Theo James is so... I mean, apart from the fact that he's easy on the eyes, I think he has a charisma to him that I really enjoy. And I think he should be way bigger than he is. I don't think these movies have done him any favors, really. But he could totally be an action star, and I'd be up for it. Because you can see his conviction whenever he speaks, and I really liked him in this movie, actually, because it's not just, you know, supporting Triss. He's got his own position this time around, and I think that's actually why I liked him in the movie too. Even when he's doing the wrong thing, he's kind of got that conviction in him. So I liked him in this movie, and I think really, to me, he's been the standout through this whole series. He's perfect as 4, and I think he should go way, way farther in his career once these movies are over. Hopefully people will give him that chance. I also liked Matthew. What's his name? The Skarsgård boy. I liked him. We didn't get to see enough of him to really know what he was about. Which is a pity because I was hoping that they would give him a bit more protagonism, I guess, but he seemed like a glorified errand boy, really, just taking trips from here to there. But then in the scene in the aircraft, then I liked him a lot in that scene. I hope we get to see more of him later on. So I don't know. I mean, this movie was tolerable. It was certainly not as bad as Insurgent. Insurgent was just the gum in the bottom of my shoe. Okay, I hate that movie. I'm not even going to sugarcoat it. This one was okay. It was watchable. It was not as good as the first one either. I think the first one was kind of set the bar really high, and none of the others have been able to get to that point. But at least this one was watchable. I don't feel angry. I didn't feel angry when I walked out of the theater. I felt a bit meh. Like, I felt that nothing really happened until the last 20 minutes or so, and even when stuff was happening, I wasn't really invested in it. I'm just like, oh, hey, look, stuff is happening. But it wasn't terrible, I guess. It was watchable. I'm not going to be watching it again, but it was watchable. I don't feel like I've lost 2 hours of my life. I feel like if you just want to go to a movie, a popcorn flick where you just shove food in your mouth and you don't want to think about stuff too much, then this one could do it. You know, it's still, if you pull at it a bit too tightly, then stuff stops making sense a little bit, and you can start to see how convenient some of the things that happen are. It's like, dude, that's makes sense, I guess. No, it doesn't. I swear to God, I'm going to dream about that orange fog that didn't even lift off from the ground and people were running from it. Like, things like that, which you can kind of overlook if you don't want to think about things too much, but when you do, you're like, yeah, that was lazy. Whatever, it was watchable. I don't feel as strongly about it as I do Insurgent, which is a good thing in my mind, because I thought this entire franchise was just going off the deep end. I was sure of it. No, I'm kind of a little bit, I feel better about it. It's not, I don't think this redeemed the franchise in any way, because it did not reach the standard set by the first one, and even the first one was still kind of like trying to be what other teenage young adult franchises were, and it just didn't reach that peak, but it was definitely the best one out of the bunch. This one didn't reach that high, but it wasn't terrible. It was okay. There's been a lot of movies that are worse than this. There's been a lot of movies that have made less sense than this, so, it's fine. If you're like my cousins, you probably enjoy it, because they just don't want to think things through about this too much. So sure, it's fine. I'm not gonna give it a pass or anything, because I still think it's not a great movie, and I still think it could have done so much better. But at least it's not going to be 1.5 stars. So that's that. This is such a great review, dude. It's like, I'm not even saying anything. I'm just saying, like, okay, it is what it is. That's it. Whatever. I'm just gonna leave it at this before I keep repeating myself. As usual, be sure to visit our website at thegeekypub.com. We have reviews not just for the previous Divergent movies, but also for other movies, TV shows, books, games. So a ton of stuff in there, so be sure to visit and check it out. And while you're here, please do subscribe to our YouTube channel, because that's usually where our movies get uploaded to first. most of the time, even before they hit the website, they're up on YouTube. So if you don't want to miss anything that we upload, then you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And that's it from me. I will spend the rest of my night thinking of something that is not the Divergent series, thankfully. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.